You lost control of your life the moment you reached for your phone this morning. It didn't feel like it, of course. You just wanted to check your notifications, maybe clear a few emails. A harmless scroll to ease into the day. But before you could even think your first real thought, your mind had already been hijacked by someone else's urgency, someone else's drama, someone else's agenda. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This isn't a bad day. This is your default. You're constantly reacting. You're solving problems that aren't yours. Living by a calendar you didn't build. Measuring success with metrics you didn't choose. And calling it being productive. But what if the real productivity is this? Taking back the steering wheel of your mind before the world grabs it again. Stoicism isn't about detaching from life. It's about owning it, ruthlessly, consciously. Stoics didn't focus on themselves to escape. They did it to command. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet journaled daily just to remind himself of what he could truly control. This isn't another self-care manifesto. This is your wake-up call. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. You don't need to try harder. You need to choose smarter. And above all, you need to focus on yourself, not to feel better, but to become untouchable, ready to reclaim your life. Let's begin. 1. Deconstructing the myth. Focus on yourself is not a retreat. Focus on yourself. It sounds noble, almost virtuous. It's the modern mantra of self-help culture, printed on coffee mugs and captioned under selfies with filtered sunrises. But most people misinterpret it badly. For some, it means pulling away from the world, isolating themselves as an act of self-preservation. They equate solitude with strength, thinking that withdrawing from noise automatically leads to clarity. So they vanish from their relationships, ambitions, responsibility, believing absence is some form of personal evolution. But retreat is not the same as return. Silence isn't the same as insight. And isolation, left unchecked, quickly becomes avoidance. Growth does not always happen in stillness. Sometimes, stillness is where growth goes to die. For others, focus on yourself has become a marketing slogan for feeling better. Spa days, green smoothies, bullet journals, mood playlists. This curated self-care culture is less about mastery and more about maintenance. They build rituals to soothe the mind, not sharpen it. They seek emotional comfort, not inner construction. Their version of self-focus is designed to feel good, not to make good. It becomes a balm, not a blade. But Stoicism doesn't hand you balm. It hands you a sword and says, use this to cut away everything that isn't essential. 1. Then there's the third kind, the silent majority who proudly say they've stopped pleasing others. They've drawn their boundaries. They've walked away from toxic work, unhealthy relationships, social pressures. They declare their independence with pride. But after the storm settles, what remains? Often nothing. No vision. No new direction. Just a vacuum and identity built on rejection of the old, not creation of the new. And that is not focus. That is floating. All three misunderstandings come from a shared illusion. That focus is reactive. That it's something you do after life, breaks you, betrays you, burns you out. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Focus is proactive. It is preemptive. It is a decision made not in crisis, but in clarity. Epictetus wrote, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This isn't a post-trauma whisper. It's a battle plan. It doesn't come from desperation, it comes from design. In the Stoic worldview, to focus on oneself is not to curl up and repair, it's to stand up and reorganize. Not to hide from the world, but to shape your response to it with absolute intention. This is where modern culture misleads us. It sells us freedom in the form of detachment. It sells us self-love in the form of indulgence. But real freedom, the kind the Stoics practiced, the freedom to govern your own mind in the face of chaos. Real self-love is self-respect. And real focus is not about escape, it's about command. The metaphor of the general is useful here. A Roman general didn't wake up wondering if he was aligned with his inner child. He woke up, sharpened his sword, trained his men, and studied the terrain. Why? Because he knew the enemy wasn't going to wait for him to feel ready. The world doesn't wait either. It demands clarity, composure, and power. And that power begins internally, where no one can see it, but everyone eventually feels it. Ryan Holiday understood this at a crossroads most people never reach. In his 20s, he had what many dream of: success, access, status. He was the director of marketing at American Apparel, a rising star in the branding world, consulted by billionaires and moguls. But something was off. Despite the wins, he felt misaligned. He wasn't building his life. He was leasing it to the highest bidder. And so, he left, not because he hated the spotlight, but because he no longer belonged to the goals it served. He relocated to a quiet ranch in Texas. He traded boardrooms for bookshelves, and he began writing deeply, methodically, with the discipline of a Stoic. Today his work has reached millions. His books have shaped athletes, artists, CEOs, soldiers. And his life? It's no longer borrowed, it's built. Holiday didn't retreat. He redesigned. He didn't reject responsibility. He redefined it. He didn't focus on himself in the Instagram sense. He did it in the Marcus Aurelius sense, by confronting his role in the universe and choosing to lead himself before attempting to lead anything else. This is the deeper meaning of focus, not as an emotional luxury, but as a moral necessity, not an escape from the world, but an anchoring in your role within it. To focus is to choose deliberately, daily, where your energy goes, what you will tolerate, and what you will pursue at the cost of comfort. That's why Stoics didn't write about motivation, they wrote about direction. They didn't obsess over self-love, they demanded self-respect. They didn't teach how to cope, they taught how to conquer not others, but the ever-rebellious self. So the next time you hear, "Focus on yourself," don't hear an excuse to disconnect. Hear a call to rise. Focus is not meditation music. It's not scented candles. It's not a bath bomb. It's the audacity to look at your life with brutal honesty and say, "This isn't who I'm meant to be yet, so I'll burn what doesn't belong and build what will." It is the ultimate act of defiance in a world built to distract you. It's the refusal to play roles handed to you by society, family, or culture. It's the daily commitment to trade comfort for clarity and ease for excellence. Because the truth is, if you don't choose your focus, the world will choose it for you. And the world doesn't care who you become, it only cares what you consume. So choose now. Choose before you're forced to. Choose before time quietly chooses for you. 2. The theft of your sovereignty. Where has your time gone? You don't need more time. You need to stop giving it away so cheaply. This truth, while uncomfortable, is liberating. Because if time was truly your enemy, if the problem was that life moved too fast and years vanished too quickly, there would be little you could do. But the truth is far more empowering. The enemy isn't time. It's how unconsciously you've been spending it. Each day, without ceremony or resistance, most of us surrender our attention to 1,000 minor distractions disguised as responsibilities. Our time isn't slipping through, our fingertips being extracted, one tap, one scroll, one obligation at a time. We don't even notice. We call it being responsible, productive, available. But what we're really being is consumed. Seneca said, "Life is long if you know how to use it." That single sentence demolishes most modern excuses. It reframes the question entirely. We keep asking, how do I get more time? When the real question is, what am I actually doing with the time I already have? Let's look closely. There are 3 invisible thieves that steal your time with force, but with the soft seduction of social norms, digital noise, and unexamined habits. Each one masquerades as responsibility or progress. Each one is normalized, but together they strip away your sovereignty. The first thief is living by the priorities of others. This is the easiest one to justify. You open your calendar in the morning, and the day is already spoken for. Back-to-back meetings, pinged reminders, Slack messages, an email titled urgent. None of it originated from you, but you engage anyway, out of duty or habit or fear of being seen as uncooperative. You don't realize that in doing so, you've made yourself an executor of someone else's agenda. You've become efficient, but only in the service of a system you didn't design. Many people wear this as a badge. I'm in demand. People need me. But if everyone else is pulling your time in different directions, who's pulling it toward your deepest purpose? Busyness that comes from service can be noble, but busyness that comes from constant reaction is slavery with a shiny filter. You are not here to be a living notification system. You are not alive just to be reliable on demand. If you don't define your own priorities, you will live inside the noise of someone else's. The second thief is obsession with what you cannot control. This is the psychological quicksand of modern life. We scroll endlessly through news cycles, stock fluctuations, political forecasts, cultural debates, believing that by consuming all of it, we're staying informed. But awareness without discernment is a trap. You cannot control the market. You cannot control the next headline. You cannot control the way the internet responds to your opinion, your photo, your product, your truth. But you can control your attention, and your attention is the currency that powers your life. Every time you pour it into something external and uncontrollable, you're not just wasting time, you're weakening yourself. No Stoic feared chaos. They simply refused to center their lives around it. What mattered was the internal fortress, the strength of mind and clarity of intention that remained untouched, no matter how unpredictable the world became. The people who move powerfully through uncertainty are not the ones who know everything, they're the ones who have decided what matters. They act inside that circle with relentless focus and ignore the rest. This is not ignorance. This is strategy. And then comes the third thief, the most seductive, the most praised, the most spiritually dangerous. It's the addiction to busyness for its own sake. This one hides in plain sight. You feel it when you check your phone mid-conversation, when you agree to a call you didn't want, when you keep your day full just to avoid an uncomfortable truth. In the modern workplace, this addiction is seen as dedication. He's always online. She never stops. But being always on is not a virtue. It's a signal of disconnection from boundaries, from depth, from meaning. You know this feeling. You've ended a day exhausted, drained, irritated, yet when you reflect, you can't name one thing that truly mattered. You were busy all day, yet somehow unfulfilled. Why? Because motion is not progress, speed is not alignment, and busyness is not purpose. Our brains reward the completion of tasks, a cleaned inbox, a checked-off to-do list, a cleared schedule. But if those tasks weren't connected to your values, your vision, your becoming, what were they actually worth? This is where the real pain surfaces. Because for many high-functioning professionals, staying busy is a way to avoid stillness. And stillness is where the truth lives. It's in that silence where you begin to hear the dissonance between who you are and who you're pretending to be. That's why many people would rather drown in tasks than sit with their own thoughts. It's easier to keep moving than to admit you've been moving in the wrong direction. But the Stoic path demands stillness not as withdrawal, but as reflection. Stillness is not the opposite of action. It's what gives action its meaning. Without stillness, you mistake urgency for importance. You chase recognition over impact. You react instead of decide. So what can you do? You can begin by reclaiming the first hour of your day. That is your sovereignty window, before the messages arrive, before the demands pile up, before the world reaches for your mind. In that hour, you decide, you write, you breathe, you move, you build. You plan it as a ritual, but as a reclaiming. You're not hiding from the world. You're preparing to meet it on your terms. Next, audit your time, ruthlessly. Take the past 7 days. Where did your time go? What percentage was proactive versus reactive? How much was spent on your values versus your obligations? Then, ask a harder question. Why are you filling your life with things you don't remember doing? Your time is not just a schedule, it is the mirror of your identity. Every yes you give is shaping the person you're becoming. So, say yes carefully. Say it to things that sharpen you, to people who stretch you, to pursuits that reflect your values. And say no with conviction, not with guilt, with clarity. Because if you don't protect your time, no one else will. This isn't about becoming a productivity robot. This is about becoming a sovereign being again. Someone who knows that life is not a race to the end, but a discipline of presence. Someone who realizes that nothing external can give meaning to time that wasn't first claimed from within. Seneca's words ring louder than ever. Life is long if you know how to use it. He didn't say, if you plan it well, or if you hustle hard. He said, if you use it intentionally, truthfully, and unapologetically. That's the question now. Will you use your time, or will you let it be used? Because the clock isn't your enemy. The notifications are. The overcommitment is. The reactivity is. You're not running out of time. You're just not living like it's yours. And the most powerful moment to change that is this one. 3. The Stoic strategy for unshakable focus. Focus isn't found, it's built. Most people treat focus like a mood. Some days you feel focused, and others you don't. But in Stoic philosophy, focus is not emotional, it's architectural. It's the deliberate construction of a life in which noise cannot thrive, where distractions die from starvation, not suppression, where your attention is a fortress, not a hotel. In a world designed to fragment you, focus becomes the highest form of rebellion. And for the Stoics, that rebellion wasn't abstract. It was methodical, measured, strategic. So how do we begin rebuilding? Not by adding more, but by removing the excess. This is the first principle. Subtraction thinking. We are conditioned to equate progress with accumulation. More apps, more goals, more inputs. But the Stoics knew the truth. The pursuit of clarity is not about getting more eats, about needing less. True focus is not about stacking priorities. It's about cutting what doesn't belong. That includes tasks that look productive but aren't essential, conversations that feel urgent but lack depth, relationships that appear loyal but don't challenge or elevate you. Every inch of your mental space matters. Every unexamined commitment is a leak in the ship. Modern society fears less because we've equated simplicity with failure. If I'm not constantly busy, am I falling behind? If I don't answer right away, will I be forgotten? If I let go of this opportunity, will I regret it forever? But this is scarcity thinking wrapped in social pressure. The Stoic sees through it. They don't hoard decisions, interactions, or options. They cut with precision, with courage. Try this. Make a not to-do list. Yes, the opposite of a to-do list. Write down 5 behaviors, activities, or obligations that consume time but add no meaning. Things you do out of guilt, habit, or social expectation. Then stop doing them for 1 week. Notice the mental space that opens. Notice how hard it is at first. That's your addiction leaving the system. Then go deeper. Build an energy map of your week. For 7 days, track not just your schedule but how each activity makes you feel. What drains you, what fuels you, what numbs you, what ignites you. When you look at the data, patterns will emerge, and when they do, edit accordingly. You are not a calendar entry. You are a creator. You choose what stays. This is not minimalism for aesthetics. It's subtraction for sovereignty. Every no you say becomes a yes to clarity. But subtraction alone isn't enough. Once we remove the noise, we need a framework to guide where our focus goes. This brings us to the second Stoic strategy, the circle of control. At the core of Stoicism lies one of the simplest and most liberating distinctions in philosophy. There are only 2 types of things in life: things you can control and things you cannot. Everything else is noise. The modern world thrives on our inability to make this distinction. You're bombarded with narratives that demand your attention: political chaos, online backlash, global catastrophes, market volatility, office gossip. These things are real, but they are not yours to carry. You may influence outcomes, but you do not control them. And the Stoic knows, where control ends, peace begins. Imagine you're a leader in a company and your team misses a major deadline. The client is angry, pressure is mounting. What's in your control? Your response, your words, your decisions. What's not in your control? The client's emotions, the market reaction, the opinions whispered behind your back. The untrained mind panics under this weight. It tries to manage everything. It exhausts itself over variables it can't touch. The Stoic mind, however, anchors itself inside the circle. It acts with reason, with responsibility, and then it lets go. This practice is not passive. It's power redefined. It means you never again chase every fire. You become fireproof. To implement this, begin a 5-minute morning journaling ritual. Each morning, draw 2 circles on paper. In the first, list what you can control today: your choices, your mindset, your effort. In the second, list what you cannot: the economy, other people's behavior, unexpected interruptions. Then, with full attention, commit to spending your energy only in the first circle. This habit, repeated daily, becomes armor. No matter how unpredictable your environment, your mind remains sovereign. No one steals your focus because you don't offer it freely anymore. But perhaps the most powerful Stoic strategy isn't just what you eliminate or what you focus on. It's who you're becoming in the process. This leads us to the final principle: core identity. Focus without identity is fragile. You might have the perfect schedule, the right tools, the best habits, but if you don't know who you are becoming, every decision becomes a negotiation. Every temptation feels like a dilemma. Every yes and no becomes a guess. But when you build from identity, focus becomes effortless. You no longer ask, "Should I do this?" You ask, "Does this reflect the person I've chosen to become?" That's the ultimate filter. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when you're not chasing, performing, or proving? What if your calendar was a mirror of your character? This is what separates temporary focus from permanent alignment. Focus, for the Stoic, is not about productivity. It's about becoming. Every choice, every commitment, every hour invested is a brick in the foundation of your character. Consider the story of Kobe Bryant, a boy who spent part of his childhood in Italy, far from the spotlight of American basketball, then returned to the US as a teenager and entered the NBA straight out of high school. Despite not being the strongest or the fastest, he rose to become one of the greatest players in basketball history, winning 5 NBA championships, 2 Olympic gold medals, and earning global respect, not because of circumstance, but because of relentless focus and an unshakable commitment to mastery. Yes, he was legendary for his talent, but more than that, he was known for his obsession with mastery. He trained at 4 a.m., not because it was glamorous, but because, in his words, "I don't have time to be like them." That sentence says everything. Kobe wasn't just chasing greatness. He was avoiding average at all costs. He wasn't competing with others. He was aligning with his identity. And every early morning, every rep, every refusal to relax it wasn't discipline for its own sake. It was devotion to who he chose to become. The Stoics understood this long before modern sports psychology. They called it arete excellence in moral character, the pursuit of virtue, not for applause, for integrity. When you build your life around this pursuit, distractions lose their power. The party invite doesn't tempt you. The empty conversation doesn't drain you. The latest drama doesn't deserve you. You're not escaping the world, you're rising above it. You begin to embody the greatest paradox of focus. It's not about narrowing your life, it's about deepening it. And from that depth comes unshakable clarity. So now the question turns to you. What are you willing to subtract? What circle will you stay in? Who are you committed to becoming? Because in the end, the world doesn't need more people who are busy. It needs people who are focused with intention, with conviction, with grace. People who don't chase attention, they own it. People who don't seek validation, they walk with identity. People who don't ask, "What should I do next?" They ask, "Who am I when I do it?" You can become that person, not tomorrow, now. 4. Building a fortress, the long-term system to protect your focus. Focus is not a burst of motivation, it is a way of living, a way of structuring your inner and outer worlds so that the trivial cannot survive and the essential cannot be ignored. It is not a switch you flip. It is a fortress you build brick by brick, habit by habit, boundary by boundary. In the Stoic view, focus isn't a mental trick, it's a declaration. A declaration that your life is worth living on purpose, that your mind is not a rental property for whatever enters, that your attention, your most valuable resource, is not available to just anyone, at any time, for any reason. Most people lose focus not because they're weak, but because they live in environments designed for fragmentation. Their phone is within reach at all times. Their calendar is open to the world. Their space is cluttered with distractions, and their mind mirrors that chaos. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And to embody focus, you need to engineer a life where focus doesn't just visit you, need to build a place where it lives. It starts with your physical space. Most people underestimate how much the design of their environment affects their ability to think clearly. If your space is filled with things that do not matter, your mind will chase things that do not matter. Clutter is not just visual noise, it's mental friction. Every misplaced object, every unnecessary tab, every open notification is a tiny gravitational pull away from your true work. Create a space that honors your attention. It doesn't need to be big. It needs to be intentional. Keep your workspace minimal. Clear your desk at the end of each day. Silence the digital world before you sit down to think. Build rituals that separate thinking time from reacting time. Let the physical design of your space signal to your mind that something sacred is about to happen here. Then, protect your timino by cramming more into it, but by aligning your effort with your values. The illusion of productivity comes from filling the calendar. The reality of impact comes from clearing space to focus on what matters most. This is where time blocking becomes more than a productivity hack. It becomes a principle of integrity. Don't just schedule tasks, schedule intention, schedule clarity. Give your best hours to your highest priorities, not to your inbox, not to random pings, but to the single task that defines the success of your day. And here's the key: don't chase volume, chase leverage. One high-leverage move per day. That's enough. If you do that 250 times in a year, you will be unrecognizable in 3. Because not all effort is equal. Not all tasks deserve your best energy. Focus is not just doing less. It's doing what truly builds the future you want and doing it first. But you can't do this if you treat time as flat. The day has rhythm. Use it. Manage your energy, not just your hours. In the morning, your brain is fresh. Use that time for deep work, strategic planning, creative thinking. Reserve the afternoon for collaboration, communication, decisions. Let the evening be for rest, reflection, and restoration. Don't schedule based on conveniences. Schedule based on biological truth. This approach reclaims your day not just from the world, but from yourself. You begin to design your life not around demand, but around design. Still, even the most intentional schedule will collapse if you cannot say no. Most people don't struggle with knowing what matters. They struggle with protecting it. And the greatest threat to your focus is not ignorance, it's the inability to close the door. Learn to say no like a Stoic, without drama, without apology, and without delay. A Stoic doesn't decline because they're selfish. They decline because they're clear. When someone asks for your time, your default should not be guilt. It should be discernment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And to live to, really, lives to make decisions that reflect your deepest values, not your shallowest fears. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align, you say no to something that does. And that is the quiet erosion of self. So build boundaries, not walls but intelligent gates. Decide in advance what you will give your time to and what you will not. Decide what types of requests get immediate declines. Decide which hours are sacred and make them so. And don't just protect yourself from others. Protect yourself from you. From the impulse to fill silence. From the urge to reach for your phone. From the fear of missing out that makes you abandon your mission for a moment of social comfort. Discipline is not punishment. It is love expressed through structure. Protecting your focus is protecting your future. It is guarding the gate of your mind so that what enters shapes you and what doesn't fades harmlessly away. And don't forget, environment isn't just physical, it's social. You rise or falter the standard of the people around you. Surround yourself with people who value depth over noise. People who don't need to talk constantly to prove they're present. People who honor your time because they honor their own. Build a circle that breathes clarity, not chaos. In this kind of system, physical, temporal, energetic, and relational focus is no longer something you fight for every day. It becomes your natural state. The Stoics didn't wait for the world to give them space. They created it through design, discipline, and detachment from the unnecessary. You can do the same. Every moment of clarity is earned. Every hour of deep work is defended. Every decision to say no is a declaration. I refuse to live a distracted life. And when that becomes your standard, your life begins to transform. Not through force, through fortification. Focus isn't about feeling better. It's about living better. It's not about retreating from the world. It's about refusing to be ruled by it. To focus on yourself is to reclaim your sovereignty moment by moment, decision by decision. It's about showing up in your own life on purpose, not as a reaction, not as a shadow, but as a presence with weight, with intention, with direction. This isn't about being selfish, it's about being self-led. Because if you don't focus on yourself, someone else will, your boss, your phone, the algorithm, society's expectations, and they won't focus on what makes you whole. They'll focus on what keeps you useful. There's a difference. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet wrote in his journal like a man trying to rule his own mind. That's the power of Stoicism, not in its grandness, but in its groundedness. It brings you back to the core. What do you control? What will you choose? And who are you becoming when no one's watching? So if this message resonated with you, if it struck something quiet and unspoken, inside, don't let it fade. Share this video with someone you care about. Hit like if it challenged you. Subscribe if you're ready to build a life with clarity, with intention, and with inner power. And I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share your story. What's one thing you're choosing to subtract from your life starting today? No pressure, no perfection, just presence. Because you don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. You need a reason that's worth staying awake for. As you step into the next hour of your day, remember this: if you don't own your time, someone else will, and they won't spend it on you. See you in the next video. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and stay stoic.